Welcome back, once again, to Interview with a Bothan. I am Lou. This is our glorious leader, Lenny.
Hi.
Are we ready, kids? Oh, you don't watch SpongeBob.
No, I don't watch SpongeBob.
The response would have been, aye, Captain.
Ah, I see. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Should leave that in. I thought I'd mislead people into thinking I know anything about SpongeBob.
They have it in French.
Wow. The thing is, I feel like I learn better French when I watch like real people's mouth move, as opposed to animated sponges.
And I don't have an opening joke this week because I'm really distraught over the death of Galorno.
It was a hard one.
It was a hard one. How you doing?
I'm alright.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I rewatched Andor this week so I could be pissed about something other than what I was actually pissed about, and it worked. Because
Should write a Substack article about it.
that's what you keep telling me.
I've only told you like twice.
It feels like a lot because I inaccurately absorb data.
I think you would enjoy it.
I think I would too.
I have my shit-talking the Acolyte, but being like, the Acolyte sucks. But I wouldn't have read. I would have continued being I don't think we need any more movies.
Mm.
Why did we keep doing this kind of guy?
Mm-hmm.
If not for the Acolyte.
Interesting.
Like when me and my partner started dating. Or maybe not even dating. I don't know. When we met.
Mm.
You know how it is. He was trying to get me to watch Andor, and I was like, I just could not give less of a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. I don't.
That's funny.
I just don't care. And then, this is also how I feel about the new Dune movies. So you rewatched Andor. Anything else?
Yeah. Well, one, I continue to be pissed off about Bix Substack thoughts allegedly forthcoming. And I also feel like the last episode of Andor was always doomed because it was limited by needing to be a lead into Rogue One. So it's like, it has the cross-contamination of inferior media on it, which I know was a hot take because some people really like Rogue One, but I know you don't.
I feel nothing about Rogue One.
The hatred, I feel like indifference is more powerful than hatred is.
Yeah.
As has been said. And also it was interesting, having seen Rebels since my last watch of Andor, I was just like, oh, okay, that's why they had to do this fucking rigmarole.
That's why it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
That's why everybody was talking about it when they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Mon Mothma's speech.
Yeah. Because she gave a speech in the Senate, and then they were like, okay, she's got to go up to give a different speech. And
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I've seen that, but
it
looked like fondant.
I mean, it's the interesting thing about continuity in this kind of regard is like, there aren't enough people, it seems.
In Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think every continuity has this problem. I'm going to use the Mall Show as an example. So I have been watching the Mall Show because my partner wants to watch the Mall Show. Fucking gorgeous. Holy shit. Dave Filoni sure is a fucking animator. And all of the guys working on that show are putting their entire ass into the animation. It is absolutely, like, gorgeous. It's like, I fucking don't. I don't care about Darth Maul. I just don't. I do think, like, and I am of the opinion, I did like his Rebels kind of cameos almost.
Yeah, they were really fun.
They were really fun. I love a pathetic man.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have really leaned into that
for this show,
yeah, I would have been like, chef's kiss, beautiful. Show me a failure. I want a show about a guy that fails all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like that thing where, like, partially there's no stakes. Because it's like, okay, well, we know. I mean, maybe they'll resurrect Maul again for the nth time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they did it in Clone Wars. But I think what's interesting about, and this is going to be critical support for Cornhorn, you're going to hate me. And I'm going to hate myself. Yes, all of the X-Wing books are about Wedge Antilles. But the Rogue books are about Cornhorn. and Tycho. And like, if you look at Heir to the Empire, you're like, you can see how it's pitched, you know, like you can be like, okay, well, we're going to have Luke, Han, and Leia, and we're going to have them go on this adventure or whatever, this, that, and the other. And then you get the book and it's like, would you like 60% of this book to be about a blue guy?
Hell yeah, brother. Also, Talon Card.
Yeah, Talon Card. And like Mara Jade, even with my complex feelings on her. Can't wait until we cover Hand of Thrawn because we're going to go so in depth about women in the Nazi Party. It's going to be a time for sure. Capital T time. It's like I would, and like I have not read the High Republic. I technically own most of the High Republic adult novels now. Shout out to that guy on Facebook. But it's like I genuinely, I mean, yeah. Or like there's that Aaron Alston, is it Aaron Alston or is it Stackpole? With a cameo at the end of the book where it's like, Luke, what are you doing here? Which is just really fucking funny.
Yeah.
Is that Back to War?
Yeah, it's when like Luke pops in to be like, Corrin, I heard that you kind of might be a Jedi. Do you want to come
hang out?
Yeah.
And like I don't like Cornhorn. I think he's a well-written character. Unfortunately, he's deeply, deeply annoying.
Yeah.
But
I think it's Krytos Trap, because that's the one with Tycho's trial, and then Corrin comes back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Krytos Trap. At the end of Krytos Trap, I think it's on like literally the last page. They're like, Luke, what are you doing here?
There's a really great Wedge Luke fic where the last chapter takes place immediately after Luke appears.
Word.
It's beautiful.
I wept on AO3?
Of course.
You left a review?
I did not leave a review.
You should start commenting on AO3.
I can't leave comments on the internet. It freaks me out.
Do you not have an AO3 account?
I do have an AO3 account.
Is it identifiable?
No.
Who gives a shit?
Mm.
I stole Leo's username.
That's funny.
For things.
Yeah.
But then I spelled it wrong.
No, my username is completely unidentifiable, and I've never used it on any other platform.
Based.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also have thoughts and feelings about Andor.
I know.
So many of them. Of which I will not share on this podcast because we are not a TV show podcast.
Indeed, we are not.
I also genuinely do not feel anything about Rogue One in any capacity, which is also how I feel about the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's not how I feel about the Han Solo movie. I have intellectual feelings about the Han Solo movie.
I'm familiar.
Which prohibits me from being entirely apathetic.
I've been thinking about that all week.
Ask me how I'm doing.
Oh yeah. So you're so right.
And that needs to be cut. We cannot know that it was.
I had to be prompted.
Yeah.
To give a shit.
Sit here. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, no. I did just yell in your general direction for 30 minutes.
No, but that's not. Because the thing in your notes was you talked about the mall show, and then you already talked about the mall show. So I was like, but anyway, sorry. So how are you doing?
Well, update from last episode, in which I know I spend a considerable amount of time in the finished episode being like, my mouth hurts. My stitches are gone. I got them taken out yesterday.
Yippee!
Which means by the time this comes out, will have gotten them taken out 2 weeks ago. Also, Canada admitted that I'm Canadian.
Yeah, you are.
Which means they can't kick me out anymore. Which is based.
Mm-hmm.
I can do whatever I want now.
I'm scared.
I'm going to fix my taxes. Yeah, and then I'm getting poor people dental.
Shout out.
And then I'm going to set a bunch of appointments to get the rest of my teeth fixed.
Yippee!
It's also like 20 fucking degrees today. I went to the dep in a tank top.
Hell
and
yeah.
shorts.
I looked at the weather after. Well, actually, I didn't look at the weather. I looked at your notes, saw you saying it's like 20 fucking degrees, and I was like, okay, that's warm. And then I didn't take that into account when I got dressed, and so then I had to take off all of my layers in the metro and put them in my backpack. But I'm glad I wore this many layers to be here, because otherwise I would have been cold.
I do own blankets.
I know, but
I'm just saying.
I know. But I'll be here for a while, probably.
Yeah, most likely.
And so,
we're also having slop for dinner.
I can't wait for slop.
My favorite Cincinnati slop.
Slop.
We're doing fucking Skyline dip.
Yep.
I'm so excited.
Have you ever had that?
Yeah, it's the cream cheese shit.
Oh, nice.
Also, I went to the grocery store, spent $70.
Huh!
So before we do anything else,
Mm.
this is going to be our first official trigger warning for the things we're going to talk about. Because while we've talked about horrific things before,
Yes.
we're talking about medical torture today.
Yeah, it's...
Which was previewed last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Be warned. We will be talking about both Japanese and German medical experimentation during World War II. So, today, we are covering Solo Command. Finally. It's great. I love it here. It was written by Aaron Alston. It was published after I physically existed, although it was in utero. It was February 2nd, 1999. And like almost everything else we've covered, we are still in Bantam era stuff for Legends books. And also I wanted to note this, and I guess out myself as someone who uses Usenet still, mostly for German television, and not the other reasons people use Usenet. Porn.
Oh.
Is in the acknowledgments of this book. Alston specifically thanks the netizens of alt.fan.wedge for their support and commentary. You can physically go back and look at those messages. I did it this morning. You can't because you don't have a Usenet subscription because it used to be free, and then they got in trouble for having a bunch of CSAM because it's the internet and that's what happens on the internet, I fucking guess.
Yeah.
And then internet providers stopped offering it as part of their packages. I have it for media-related reasons, which I guess is admitting to crimes.
Oh.
But Canada can't get rid of me.
Uh-huh.
So I don't give a shit
What
anymore.
if I get implicated?
I'm also a big supporter of getting people back on Usenet. I think a lot of people with the federated social medias, like Mastodon and shit, you just want a news group. You just want text posts. You want Usenet. That's what you want. You don't, which is great. There's already a thing for that, and it works. And it's worked for like 50 years.
That's a long time.
Usenet.
It was conceived in 1979 and established in 1980.
Okay, so yeah, almost 50 years.
Wow.
It is the same age as Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Or a little younger. Or a little older. I don't know. Yeah, but you can go back and you can look at them. It is a group that still exists. Nobody's posted on it since 2015.
Oh.
But I did add it to my thing. My little binary sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, Thomas says hello to, I guess, Thomas. The guy that did the music for us for free because I asked really nicely one time at a park, said hi.
Beautiful.
So, Thomas to Thomas, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you get here, Thomas. Hello.
Yeah. He says hi to all our listeners. Whoever you are, wherever you are. Anyway, so.
You ready to talk about what the fuck happens in this book?
Oh my god.
That is your domain, King.
I forgot to... You can hit your vape.
Did you forgot to what?
Copy
Where is my
vape? In your pocket.
No, it's...
Or under
it's
your legs.
Under me. Don't yell at me.
I didn't yell. I made an observation about the two
You
places.
said it in a tone. Which mimicked
We're
yelling.
tone policing now?
Yes, we are.
Whoa. Not woke. This plot overview might suck, but we'll find out. Okay, plot overview. Takes place at the tail end of 7 ABY, ending around the start of 8 ABY. The book begins with an attempt on Admiral Akbar's life by a naval lieutenant back from shore leave, who just happens to be a Twi'lek. Said attack is seemingly triggered by an odd code phrase. Quote, "The Wookiees are dancing in the parlor again," which sends the naval lieutenant into a murderous rage against Admiral Akbar. The attempt is thwarted by Wraith Squadron's very own Piggy, who is meeting with Akbar to discuss the strategy against Warlord Zinj. While Piggy is healing from the wounds sustained in his efforts to prevent this assassination attempt, the Wraiths hear about some rearrangements in their squadron. A new pilot, LSR Targan, will be joining them. Face is promoted to brevet captain, and they will be stationed on Han Solo's flagship, the Mon Ramonda, to aid him in the hunt for Warlord Zinja. Point of information, the squadrons on Mon Ramonda are Rogue, Wraith, Nova, and Polearm.
And if you would like to learn more about Polearm Squadron, there is a fic for you.
At a briefing regarding a planned insertion on Sapphilor, Face is consistently interrupted by Lara Notzel, who for some reason seems to have an intense aptitude for intelligence work. En route to that mission...
Good for her.
Yeah.
Love that for her.
So skilled.
She's a woman of many skills.
Mysterious background. Anyway, en route to this mission, Mendonos reflects on his life's trajectory and decides that he is in love with Lara Notzel, much to her distress, because as a former Imperial intelligence worker, she was responsible for the destruction of his Talon squadron, but Min is, as yet, unaware of this. Xinjia anticipates that the Wraiths will come to Sapphilor, it being one of the sites of Bing Ring Biomedical. It is clear to him that the New Republic has an interest in his business ventures, and this is also the lab where Piggy was, quote, created, aka tortured, genetically modified, and tested on, etc. Furthermore, news that Piggy has joined the New Republic as a starfighter pilot has reached Xinjia, leading him to assume that the Bing Ring biomedical experiments have been compromised. He punishes the 2 scientists in charge of this operation, and one of them, Dr. Etta Gast, makes it out alive, opting to shoot her supervisor in a creative interpretation of Xinjia's request that the 2 scientists take themselves out. Dr. Gast is put in charge of the defenses against the Wraiths, a task she takes great pleasure in until she is ultimately captured by the Wraiths during their raid. The Wraiths and Rogues discuss a plan to both infuriate Xinjia and encourage worlds to stand up against his pressures. That is, to send a fake Millennium Falcon, broadcasting comms doctored to sound like Han Solo and Chewie, to take part in operations against Xinjia-occupied planets. Xinjia and Solo are each other's biggest ops, so the idea here is that Xinjia will not be able to resist ambushing Solo in his iconic ship. 2 of the Twi'lek members of the various squadrons aboard Mon Ramonda are similarly fed strange trigger phases, as the previously mentioned naval lieutenant, causing them to attempt to attack Wedge Antilles. Corran Horn is forced to short...
It's because it's his name. Call him Lieutenant Horn and see if it...
Corran Horn.
Okay, call him Lieutenant Horn.
Lieutenant Horn. Lieutenant Corran Horn.
No, don't say his full name. Call him Lieutenant Horn and see if
I don't want to call him by his honorific.
No, but see if the sentence works.
Lieutenant Horn is forced to no, because it's Horn forced to shoot. There's no...
Just call him Corran then.
No, but forced is still there. Forced to shoot.
I'm gonna let you do what you need to do, King.
Thank you. Are you purposefully referencing the Tyler, the Creator, cooking a waffle?
No.
Do you know that video?
No.
It's so good.
The only Tyler, the Creator thing I ever reference is, how dare you bring me a birthday gift on my birthday with a birthday gift to my birthday party on my birthday with a birthday gift.
Happy birthday? Lou did an impression of hitting me. No.
I'm more of a person that quotes the Earl sweatshirt though.
Fair.
Yeah. I don't care. I don't care. It's the greatest video ever.
I don't know that video.
We can watch it on our break.
Yippee! Okay. 2 of the Twi'lek members of the various squadrons aboard Mon Ramonda are similarly fed strange trigger phrases, causing them to attempt to attack Wedge Antilles. Corran Horn is forced to shoot down Taldira of Rogue Squadron, and Tyria Sarkin is forced to shoot down a member of Polearm Squadron, whose name I did not write down, which sucks. Meanwhile, in captivity, Dr. Gast is killed by another sleeper agent. News comes out about a Godel attempting to take the life of Mon Mothma, and a Silistan almost intentionally flies a freighter into Coruscant. Following news of these attacks, General Kraken has no choice but to consider Wedge's analysis that these attacks are designed by Warlord Xinjia to sow particular distrust against non-human members of the New Republic based on stereotypes about their proficiencies. Silistans are known for being good pilots. Twi'leks are... I don't know what the stereotypes about Twi'leks are.
Honorable.
Honorable. There it is. Clearly, Warlord Xinjia is not fooled by the anti-racist messaging of the New Republic and knows damn well that if he gives the human majority of the New Republic the opportunity to be racist, they will be racist. And they are.
So racist.
Yeah. Wedge is forced to remove the Twi'lek members of his squadrons from active duty. And it's like a New Republic-wide thing of Twi'leks not being allowed to participate. To have guns. Remember the side comment I made about how weirdly good Lara Notzel is at intelligence work? Well, there are other things that are weird about her, all of which stem from the fact that she is not Laura Notzel, as we know. Her wingman, Face Loran, body language expert, pieces all these clues together and, on a mission, places Laura under arrest for treason after having also done research on her. But he does this on a fucking open channel, so Min Donos
Like
hears
a
about
dumbass.
it. Min hears about it, recognizes her real name, Gara Petithel, as the analyst who causes the death of Talon Squadron, so he tries to kill her. Lara escapes and finagles her way back into Zinja's good graces. Meanwhile, the Imperials have opened back channels of communications with the New Republic because they really also do not fuck with Warlord Zinja. So through these talks, the New Republic is able to get its hands on an Imperial interdictor cruiser, which is fun. With Zinja, Lara assumes that the point of the Millennium Falsehood mission is to lure Iron Fist into a battle in the location of the New Republic's choosing. So in her newly instated role as analyst, she nudges Zinja into following a trajectory that the New Republic wants him to. Zinja is ultimately able to make his escape in the confrontation that she sort of nudges him into, but not before Lara is able to communicate with the Wraiths and confirm to them that she is still working for them on the inside. Meanwhile, Lara is able to get her R2 unit, Tonin, to hack the maintenance droids of Iron Fist. From this, she is able to learn more about the experiments on non-human sentience taking place in the belly of Iron Fist, and she is also able to be well-positioned to sabotage Iron Fist's hyperspace and navigation capabilities. So, the next time Iron Fist and Mon Ramonda have a showdown, she corrupts Iron Fist's maps so that when it flees, not only does it hop a very short distance, but it is also trapped. And she transmits the location to Mon Ramonda. Lara manages to escape with her X-Wing, freeing some test subjects along the way, including an Ewok with pilot training. Lieutenant Ketch lives.
Well, his name's Kolot.
It's true. He's great. No! That's my impression of him.
That's really good.
Thank you. In her efforts to save Wedge's life, however, she is shot down. Iron Fist is ultimately destroyed, but Zinja still manages to get away. He uses this weird trick with second death and a cloaking device that I don't fully understand, but hey. It turns out that Etta Gast survived the attempt on her life, and from her, the New Republic is able to get sufficient information to be able to prevent future sleeper agent attacks by non-humans. She makes out like a bandit, though, new identity and like 500,000 Imperial credits, but when she gets to Coruscant, she is arrested for intent to commit treason, seeing as she traveled into New Republic space with 500,000 Imperial credits.
She's not very bright.
No.
It's kind of funny.
It's great, and I love that Nora's just sitting there. She's like, no, I didn't. I just let you do what you wanted to do.
You should have listened to me.
Yeah.
I could have helped you.
Yep.
I got Tycho Selchu off of a murder charge. We don't need to talk about why or how that happened, but I did it.
He did do that.
Is that the garbage truck? Is that garbage?
I don't know.
It's not.
No, it's
or is
not.
the trash still out there? Yes, it is.
That's crazy. The Wraiths get some news. They will be disbanded as a starfighter unit and reformulated into an intelligence unit under General Kraken or Admiral Kraken?
General Kraken.
General Kraken.
I think. Admiral Kraken sounds stupid.
It does. Min is offered an appointment to Rogue Squadron, which he takes. Wedge and Han get mail from someone who looks suspiciously like Lara Notzel.
But it's not.
It is not.
She's
She's
redhead.
dead.
Lara Notzel's dead.
Yeah.
If she wasn't dead, she'd go to prison forever, so she's dead.
Yep. So they decide to let her fake her death because the alternative is that she gets executed for treason. Han fucks off to participate in the events of the courtship of Princess Leia. So,
Yippee.
that's what happened in this book.
I think you underplayed Tonin's aptitude for leadership roles, because I think that's explicitly brought up, where he's like, I love managing.
Yeah.
This is great, which is really cute. Tonin is so cute.
Yeah, no, the bond that he and Lara have is great.
It is adorable. Thoughts and feelings. First of all, you have to ask me about them.
I was going to.
I know, but
I
they're
thought
in
I
this
did,
book.
actually.
No, you did not.
What?
No.
Okay, what are your thoughts and feelings about this?
Well, most of my personal notes, because I take personal notes before I do my real notes, are racism, anti-Twi'lek. Provisional Council equals racist, in all caps. I was really confused if Rosati was dead.
Where is she?
Well, so in the scene where Noir Ven gets attacked, they shoot the bed, And it says that there's a woman scream.
Huh.
So then I checked. Not dead.
Okay.
I guess just gets shot a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sad Galorno's dead. I can't believe Galorno is dead.
Is he the one with the voice cracks?
Yeah.
Oh, Galorno.
That Han gets really sad that he dies.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I think about this? I love the Twi'lek mechanic. I think she's great.
Mm-hmm.
She's such a bad bitch. My biggest question is, are the hollows at the museum AI generated?
Maybe. Because,
Gross.
Yeah. How did they get...
Yeah, that was my question.
For context.
There's a scene. It's close to the beginning of the book because it's
Mhm.
like my 7, 8, 9. It's my 9th note.
Yeah, it's like the last thing the Wraiths do on their shore leave that they're on before they go to Mon Ramonda is go to the Coruscant Museum.
Also, isn't this the book where they go apeshit? Mutiny book?
Is it a mute?
I mean, it's Han Solo and Wedge.
Yeah.
Can you mutiny your own ship?
No.
Good question.
It's just when everybody stops doing things and starts gambling.
Yes.
Yes, it is. This is that book.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love the mutiny. One that looks like Wedge. And I like that Wedge is just entirely aware that Face's astromech is a beer cooler.
Yeah.
And has not said anything about it up to this point.
It's great.
Okay, it's on page 19 of the mass market. But it's Vin Narsican? In my 20-year career with Republic intelligence, I successfully completed over 100 covert missions. I couldn't prevent Senator Palpatine's rise to power or his subsequent reign as emperor, but I could, and did, engineer my disappearance. And despite Imperial intelligence burning need to silence me and extinguish all the secrets I learned, they never found me. So I don't know if they went and found this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, I'm not entirely sure if they know how long the Empire was the Empire.
Yeah.
I mean, The Phantom Menace comes out in May of 99.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably they knew, like Lucasfilm knew. But yeah, I was like, did they find these people? Is that what they're doing? They're having them go and do interviews like an oral history project? Or are they AI generated, which is gross?
I hope it's the first one.
I also hope it's the first one, but you can never be sure.
Yeah.
Also, Face is such a bad bitch.
Yes, but expand on that.
No.
Why not?
He gets so snippy, and it's like, it reads well.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is not the quote, but the note that I have personally is, your movies suck. Well, yeah, it was your government's propaganda, which is just, like, conceptually the same thing as what was written. But it's very funny. I mean, he is trying so hard. I think he learned a lot from Fanon's death. But also, he's sexist, which is before the AI-generated hollow question. So that's in the first chapter.
Hmm.
Also, I really need everyone to stop calling Ronta midget.
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah.
I just think that's weird.
It sure is.
Also, Star Wars is anti-urban sprawl, which is funny when you think about the concept of Coruscant.
Yes.
And then a question that I will ask, and you will not know the answer to, and do not look it up, is, are all of the warlords part of the Empire of the Hand? And we will talk about that in several months.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
is this a concentrated effort?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know what that is, so.
I mean, it's weird. I know what it is through quote unquote cultural osmosis, but what I mean by that is talking to you.
And like the internet, I feel like you peruse things now.
Not
It's referenced in a lot of fanfic.
Sure.
Not as much.
I don't know.
You're
I don't know
over
what
it?
I do.
You're over it?
Over what?
Over Star Wars?
I'm.
It was a joke. I mean, I'm sure I could have found the answer to that question if I had bothered to look it up.
Yeah. Well, I assumed they have a fake Baron Soontir
Yes.
That's really giving, I know about Baron Soontir and I know where he is.
Or
it's giving, I want to do psychological torture on Wedge Antilles.
which I feel like is the Occam's razor answer.
Yeah. Which is why it would be, it's a very plausible cover, question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
can't remember who wrote it, but there is a companion fanfic, like re-expanded
Ooh.
thing about Dorset Con Air
Mm-hmm.
and Polearm Squadron.
I was wondering, because Dorset Connor gets like that bit of attention towards the end. And was that before or after, I guess the fic expands on this book?
The fic was written... It's called Dorset Con Air, Fastest to Fly in Flight. I was correct. It was by Wraith 14, who has a Star Wars book podcast as
Nice.
well. And the series began in 2021 and was updated in 2024. Do you have any thoughts, feelings, or concerns?
No.
I don't believe you.
Good.
Because you lied.
I do, yeah, no.
How dare you be untruthful?
I'm sorry.
Also, if there's a weird beeping noise in the background, apologies.
It's my heart monitor. Yeah, on the topic of Face, I really like the bond that he and Lara have. I feel like it's one of the few platonic friendships between men and women in the galaxy far, far away that really gets a lot of airtime. You know? Like, they're so good at doing bits together. Like, there's this one, because there's this new member of the squadron, LSR, who basically is obsessed with luck and bad luck.
I kind of like him. I think he's kind of fun.
He freaks out after a briefing because Wedge asks the group, okay, are there any flaws in this plan? And then Runt sneezes. And then LSR is like, oh my god, because Runt sneezed, we're cooked. That's indicating bad luck. And then Face is like, no. It doesn't count because it was a purposeful sneeze. Because what we're doing is we're going to put ball bearings up Runt's nose because it's going to be a secret weapon for desperate situations on our commando raids. Runt is strengthening his lungs, his sinus cavities. And then Lara says, before each mission when we go into the field, we load Runt's nose with plasteel ball bearings. Then, Face said, if we're captured and end up in the hands of just a couple guards, Runt can take in a deep, deep breath and sneeze those ball bearings out at them. They just do a great job of yes-anding each other in a way that I...
Because they're like basically the same person.
Face and Lara?
Yeah.
What?
Skills-wise.
Yeah.
Not that they know that.
Yeah.
I mean, they do end up learning that about Lara,
No.
but...
Yeah, no, like the clocking where people are from, the ability to do accents.
Acting.
That's just what that is. Doing bits, part of acting, kind of. I
And
guess.
who can't do a bit? Cornhorn.
So true. There's also kind of a running joke in this book where, well, it's only mentioned once, I think. There's apparently a running joke among the rogues and the wraiths that Han Solo and Corran Horn are never seen in the same place at the same time. Ergo, they must be the same damn person, despite the differences in their temperament. But that can't be true, because Corran Horn is fucking short. Obviously, it can't be true, because we know that they're not the same man. Also, Han Solo has swag. Yeah.
They can't be the same person, because Han Solo has gray matter in his brain. Cornhorn does not.
Indeed. Also, it just clicked for me how fucking funny it is that Face is in Wraith Squadron. Like, just imagine, I don't know. I can't really think of like a perfectly analogous actor for our day and age, from like child star to teen heartthrob to kind of no one. I feel like it's not Diego Luna's trajectory, but it's like if Diego Luna stopped acting after Dirty Dancing Havana Nights and like became a pilot. But it's like, I don't know. There's something very funny about that to me.
Trying to think of people who became teen heartthrobs. Do people still care about Justin Bieber?
Yes. Also, just fucking love Squeaky and Chewie. They're fucking funny. Also, why does Chewie just seem to fucking hate all protocol droids? I know our sample size is 2, but that's
Racist.
crazy. Yeah. But...
Also, he was a slave.
Are protocol droids involved in slavery?
Maybe.
Oh, that's true.
I don't know. Also, maybe they did a Butlerian jihad on Kashyyyk.
Maybe.
And he is distrustful of thinking machines. We know that they didn't do that. We did watch the holiday special.
We sure did.
They have
They did enjoy those thinking machines.
The porn VR.
Yeah.
It was the best part of that.
The porn VR?
Yeah.
It's what I remember the most distinctly. That's
Other
for
than
sure.
the Brezhnev.
Yeah, but I know that's a part of the same video, but it's not from within the...
See, but this is... So when TV used to only be like 3 channels, I would argue that the commercials were a part of the experience of watching something.
I'm not saying it's not a part of the experience. Okay, I think we agree. Sure.
I think that maybe you can't watch the Star Wars Holiday Special without having the CBS News break in between. Because you're not experiencing it as people experienced it. It's like the Star Wars Special Editions.
Because my most recent thing of being like, oh, that's different, was when I was at the bar in Boston and they were playing Return of the Jedi. And I was like, oh my god, why are they showing Coruscant celebrating? Like, huh? What's going on here? Like, it's not.
Imagine if that was the only time you'd ever seen that movie. In the wild, yesterday, on Bite in the Wild, on Blue Sky, I saw someone write and then post in a reply. I think I sent you the thread itself. It's about the Mandalorian movie. He was like, there haven't been any Star Wars since 1983. And it took every ounce of strength to not respond and be like, you accept the canonicity of Return of the Jedi?
You could have done that. You can do whatever you want.
See, yeah, but I didn't want to... Trying to be cool and normal.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Turning a new leaf.
Earlier today...
Shut up. Am I being a Karen about the trash? Yes. Did I say I was going to commit crimes because I can no longer get deported from Canada? Jokingly. Am I not allowed to make jokes? Are normal people not allowed to make jokes?
Normal people can't make jokes. Normal people can't be as funny as you are. Lesson learned from Wraith Squadron is that you have to be mentally ill to be funny. I don't mean that.
PTSD to be funny.
My trauma made me funny. My trauma made me funny.
We do not.
I'm joking.
Endorse that.
I'm joking. Well, yeah, I was doing a callback to an earlier episode.
I'm just saying, putting it out there, because then we will validate.
God forbid.
We can't validate.
Fate worse than death.
We can't validate redacted.
We cannot validate redacted.
So
no, because I the reason I like saying that is because it reminds me of a post I saw that was like, yeah, you go around saying my trauma made me funny, but all you're doing is just pointing at a trash can and saying me.
That is kind of me sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I think you're funny.
Yeah.
Is Thomas funny?
No. Wait.
I'm leaving it in. I'm leaving that in.
This is the second time I've said no while I was thinking when someone asked a question that was like me saying no meant it was an insult.
I'm leaving it in and I'm cutting out all of the commentary.
No.
No one can
you're so
stop
funny.
me. I am God.
Also, one last thing, because I can't breathe without hating Corran Horn. I don't remember the context of Corran saying this, but he goes, they're wraiths and they might cry. Which, listen, I know that pilots always fuck with each other, but from Corran, this is just giving ableism.
Also, I forgot to point out the most important thing that happens in this book.
Yeah?
Wes Jansen dick out.
True! Yeah.
It is. I wrote it down, literally.
Yeah.
I stopped taking notes because I was doing stuff. But the last 3 things I have is Wes Jansen dick out, Lara is back and a badder bitch than ever, and Tonin takes a leadership position.
To be fair to this book, my plot overview really cut out all of the really, really fun stuff because we've got the mutiny.
Yeah, we got mutiny. We got, unfortunately, both Galorno and Taldira's deaths. We got, quote, use a landline, stupid, end quote. I don't know what chapter that's in, but it affected me enough that I wrote it down.
Beautiful.
As a quote, in between I love when face hallucinates and Taldira no. This is just friendly fire the book. How bad is Men with Women?
Pretty bad.
I need to know. Oh, they have slapstick comedy in the galaxy far, far away.
Do you think Min Donos and Gara Petithel... No, that's not her name. She changed her name. Gara Petithel is
Tierney
dead.
Slane.
Yeah, Lara Notzel at the time of this question being relevant. Do you think they'd fucked before he found out that...
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's tough.
They do talk about slapstick comedy.
They do.
And I wrote it down that they have it there.
Yeah.
And then it's immediately followed up by, it's torture room time while they're actually doing a Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yeah, they try to burn the Wraiths alive
Yeah.
at some point, which isn't very funny,
No.
but it does happen.
Yeah, the raid on Sapphire, I neglected to mention that they get burnt alive.
But Wes Jansen dick out. That is the most important thing that
and
happens.
Shalin Alprin compliments his ass.
I assume they all work out.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Schrodinger's Millennium Falcon. That's the other funny thing I have.
Yeah, so I guess we can dive in talking about Warlord Zinja as a villain, because I feel like he, as the antagonist, sort of drives the plot of the book. So talking about him in a broad way sort of functions as a good overview. But unfortunately, my notes on this are sparse, because I ran out of energy after Wednesday. Sorry, maybe I'll enter my villain arc. I won't. I just wanted to quote the internet.
Your villain arc?
People say that. I'm in my villain era. People say everything and anything. Everything's an era now.
What is a villain era?
When you stop giving a fuck about what people think of you. Which is what you've been telling me to do for a while, but...
That makes you a villain? I have questions. I think this, goes into the Gera Min.
Yes, it does.
So we can just keep... Second, I have questions. Okay, so not caring about how the girly pops perceive you is being evil?
Oh my god, the Cleveland Clinic has an article called How to Make the Most of Your Villain Era. It's not about embracing your dark side. It's about showing up for yourself.
Well, we all want to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. But we all have a little bit of Darth Vader.
It's true.
Yeah?
Yin and yang. But is this necessarily being a villain? I don't know.
That's why we asked.
Yeah. What is a villain era? According to the clevelandclinic.org, villain era has gained popularity in social media circles as a term that defines your intentional decision to prioritize yourself, your needs and wants over the priorities of others. Despite the phrase's negative connotations, it doesn't exactly give you a hall pass to exact revenge on anyone, but it does provide a space in which you put yourself first and don't have any regrets about doing so. Your villain era is a shorthand way of referring to asserting your boundaries. It's particularly aligned with the idea that it's perfectly okay to assert your boundaries, to say no, to take care of yourself, and know what you want, even if it makes other people uncomfortable.
Okay, follow-up question.
Yes.
Is that not normal?
I mean, it should be. But, like, I think the way it's being phrased is, as the next paragraph goes on to elucidate, and that's where the villain aspect of this mentality comes into play. If you've gone so long without upholding healthy boundaries, or if you're often a people pleaser, you may be more likely to experience negative reactions from people when you start putting your foot down. But speaking as someone with a long history of people pleasing, it's not just like the negative reaction from people when I start to put my foot down, which has been demonstrated in the demise of 2 friendships recently. Like, I had a hard time setting these boundaries because I felt like I would be a bad person to do that. You know, like, I have an inordinate amount of guilt when I say no when I can tell that someone is expecting me to say yes. And, like, most recently, like, with the, how to talk about this in a vague way, you know, my recent instance of, you know, not wanting to follow up with someone who I had a sort of weird start to a friendship with.
Yeah.
Like, I feel quite guilty about the fact that I am simply not going to reach out to this person.
Huh.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
Do you perceive other people putting their foot down as being...
No. I have a
Okay.
double standard for myself.
Huh. On this episode of Lenny explains to the boomer what
Villain era is.
what villain era is. Okay, so because the way that it's talked about in that weird Cleveland Clinic article, which, why are you writing an article on this, King? And by King, I mean medical institution, is, okay, so is that garbage?
It's UPS.
I'm going to commit crimes.
Villain era.
It's like a legitimate villain era.
Yeah.
The city of Montreal, this needs to be cut. The city of Montreal is turning me into the fucking Joker. Over fucking garbage. So, villain era is prioritizing yourself.
Yes.
Is there an opposite of villain era?
Great question. Allow me to ask the internet.
Because, like, off the dome, I guess, knowing as much as has been said on this podcast about this phenomena, is I would assume that if your quote-unquote villain era is where you prioritize yourself, this kind of feeds into the general social media understanding that, like, you don't owe anyone anything, when in fact you do.
Yep.
Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you're looking at it, you do live in a place.
We live in a society.
And there are other people there.
Yeah.
And sometimes those people need to pick up the garbage when it is their job to pick up the garbage. And when they don't, the social fabric of a community can fall apart.
It's true.
And by that, I mean I'm going to seethe in my fucking apartment after calling 311.
As a citizen of this country, you have the right. Everyone deserves to get their garbage taken away regardless of their immigration status. That's my take.
This city, is this Soraya? Is Soraya the reason that my garbage hasn't been picked up?
Yes, she hasn't gotten the news that you're a citizen yet.
Well, no, because the people across the street, their fucking trash is out there.
Mm.
Yeah, it's literally like this entire...
I mean...
I realize you live downtown, and there's always garbage everywhere because people throw shit on the ground.
Yeah.
That's not the way it is here.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
No, I live in garbage.
You live in the garbage part of town.
I really do.
They should maybe clean the streets more than once a week.
It's crazy.
Or, I don't know, pick up the trash more regularly.
Yeah.
So, is there a negative connotation with helping other people because of the idea of a villain era?
That's what it is sort of constructing here, yeah. Because, like, oh, brother. I don't know, because it's like, I would love to know if there's a Know Your Meme page for villain era.
Go on Urban Dictionary. Like, is Warlord Zinj just in his villain era where he's prioritizing himself? It's also kind of giving, like, corporate.
For sure. It's like a girl boss. There's a Medium article that says, "You're not in your villain era. Everyone keeps talking about a villain era, but are we really being villains?" No, this is trash. I don't agree with this article saying I started to be selfish. I needed to be selfish. No, because it sort of, to me, is kind of linked to, like, the weaponization of therapy speak in order to be a fucking asshole. You know?
Okay.
Of being like, oh, I can't help you move because I need to set a boundary. Which, you know, that can be a boundary of, like, I don't have the energy to do this, but I just was using that as a case study of...
Or, like, you ask me to help you move all the time, and I can't get that reciprocated?
Yeah, that would be a fair time to...
But that's not being a villain.
No, it's not.
Calling it like it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, with many things on the internet, it's sort of I don't think it necessarily... I think it's said sort of tongue-in-cheek. Like, I think there's a certain layer of irony there. But I also think that...
Okay, but we're also talking about the same internet. And I joke that I'm not on social media, but I'm on Blue Sky and Substack and Reddit. Reddit is a hellscape, and none of this shit exists there. I've been getting Strait of Hormuz memes all week. Probably the average TikTok girly is unaware of what the Strait of Hormuz is, which is crazy because they won't shut the fuck up about it on the news. But, like, what I've noticed over the years is that kind of idea that, like, you don't owe anybody anything, which is, and hear me out, a hyper-capitalist way to look at life. Because you do owe people things. I owe it to my downstairs neighbors to not get into rollerblading at 3 a.m. in my apartment.
Is this something that happened to you?
No, it was
Okay.
just an outlandish example. I owe it to my neighbors to not leave used needles in the streets because there are children that live near me. And I'm saying this as someone who had to avoid used needles growing up. That did happen to me. We're chilling. We're good. But, and, like, saying you're in your villain era, it feels like unalived. Which is, like, bleeding into every facet of life. It's bleeding into the way that, like, students write things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it demonstrates like an inability to be honest with oneself,
Mm-hmm.
even if it is like kind of tongue-in-cheek, where like you're not in your villain era. You're just telling your mom you can't babysit.
Yeah. What's interesting is that I feel like you can probably find the same people saying you don't know anybody anything, and those same people, like a couple months later, will also then go on TikTok and sound off about the importance of community.
Oh, and that lack of third spaces?
Yeah. But like we'll go to the library and then
But are actively voting against their school levies?
Yeah.
And their like county library levies? Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll go to the library and then be pissed off that a homeless person's there, which I've seen on the internet. They're like, what?
I've seen that in real life.
Yeah. No.
You've seen people be pissed off that there are homeless people in the library on the internet?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, it like sort of, I've seen it about, it's more like counter discourse. It's sort of like you can't sound off about how important third spaces are and then in the same breath also be like, but there should be barriers.
Well, I don't know. The like reading is ableist discourse popped up on Substack.
I haven't heard about that discourse.
You've never heard about that?
The reading is ableist discourse?
Oh my god, let me introduce you to the discourse that's been plaguing me for the past 15 years. This is just going to become the...
Lenny and Lou talk about internet discourse?
Yeah. Oh my god, Jeff K. Fuck, marry, kill. Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A, or Jersey Mike's. Marry Jersey Mike's. Fuck Taco Bell, kill Chick-fil-A.
Amen.
Someone posted on Substack and said Marxists will tell newly radicalized leftists to pick up 20 different books, all dense works of political theory. Honey, you've just alienated 90% of the people you're addressing. I think leftists forget they were babies once. It's not an easy task to process all that information and genuinely let it seep into your consciousness. Don't just dump a year's worth of reading onto a beginner or hold their hands a little. Which I don't necessarily disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
Do something like a fucking book club. I don't know.
Yeah.
Response. It's not classes to ask people to read. The history of struggle and movement making has been led by poor and working class people who took time to read. That is not always the case. They did not always know how to read, but they wanted to, which is why they revolted. Some of my favorite writers are dyslexic too, and they make time to read in their capacity. Sure, theory can be hard, and they're often better books than dense theoretical texts, written mostly by dead white men, but that isn't all of the books we should be reading. Reading and study are part of the struggle, whether we like it or not. Fascists don't want us to read either. Someone else responded with, reading is absolutely classist, LOL. Hell, thinking you can judge people for their ability and access to books is classist. Your privilege is showing, my dear. Look at this mob of quasi-intellectuals ganging up. This needs... Whoever's editing this, delete the part where I read these out word for word, except for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this mob of quasi-intellectuals ganging up to hurl insults at me for holding an opinion that we shouldn't judge those without access to the ability to read. You stand upon a pedestal of books and look down on me while all screaming it isn't classist. And then everyone is like, yo, I literally grew up in Section 8. Yo, like, the library was the only reason that I was able to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then I quoted it and I said, well, this is an American example. The Library of Congress, specifically the NLS, provides hardware and accessible books for those who are vision impaired. Read for free.
Mm-hmm.
There are similar programs in other, but not all countries. As a society, we have tried so hard to make reading accessible to as many people as possible. And then this woman responded, hell yeah, Lou, that's what I'm talking about.
Nice.
Bitch, I was disagreeing with you. Like, I consider audiobooks reading to a certain extent. I realize they don't flex the same muscles. You should supplement. And we should be more willing to give, like, adult literacy classes for free. And, you know, going back to the stuff we talked about last episode, where, like, a world in which this stuff exists is kind of unimaginable at the current moment, because things would just have to be so radically different. And we would have to have a society that's not revolving around capitalist productivity. But that's... I'm afraid of the new Red Scare, so I will stop talking there. I love capitalism, actually. It's beautiful. Where would we be without the free market? We'd be serfs. We'd be living on farms in Russia.
A rising tide lifts all ships. I love trickle-down economics. It works.
I had a point here. I don't know. in my head, that kind of discourse and the villain era adjacent, like, censorship that takes place on social media. And as you pointed out, like, the weaponization of, like, quote unquote therapy speak, I think they're all kind of like the same bundle of bullshit. Where, like, as Min told Lauren Otzel, why do you care? My unlicensed therapy of why do you give a shit what people think about you is not you being in your villain era. No. It is making life surmountable.
Yeah.
Which I know isn't a word, but
should be.
It should be.
I also feel like what's interesting about the villain era thing is that it sort of creates a brand for just changing the way you relate to people, which is, you know...
Could you elaborate on that?
You know, so many things that are just sort of like, yeah, no shit, that's part of being a person, like the fucking analog bag villain era.
God, YouTube wanted me to have an analog bag so badly.
I know. But like all of the analog bag, I feel like also just sort of brands the concept of putting a book in your purse.
Yes.
The villain era puts a brand on the concept of saying no if you are tired and you don't want to hang out with someone in that exact moment.
Which is like an incredibly normal thing.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm kind of talking out of my ass.
Is this related
here.
to the whole like aesthetic thing?
Yeah, it's like everything's an aesthetic, you know?
That started on Tumblr. I remember that.
Yeah. I do kind of. I don't know. I feel like I really...
I loved the art ho aesthetic so bad.
What was the art ho aesthetic?
It's like the yellows and shit. Obviously.
Art ho aesthetic room ideas. Ooh, I like yellow.
I remember the aestheticization of subcultures on Tumblr. And then when I still had Instagram, had finagled myself into such a niche that I never saw anything like that.
All you saw was the Tunisian chicken.
All I saw was the Tunisian chicken and videos of like actual members of paramilitary organizations that may be considered terrorist organizations by certain countries.
And Anakin Skywalker thirst traps.
And Anakin Skywalker thirst traps.
And I guess going back to Star Wars, the unhinged thing about like calling it a villain era is obviously like the connotations of a villain is like doing properly fucked up shit.
Like genocide.
Or medical experimentation. Or having your subordinates kill themselves. But doing it in a really charming way. Like Warlord Zinja. I feel like...
You can be funny and be evil at the same time.
You sure can. And Warlord Zinja proves that fact. Yeah, I don't know. Because he sort of, like, fits into the mold of, like, you know, other... Like, he's not Imperial, but he's Imperial adjacent. Like...
Yes.
And so in the mold of, like, other, like, Imperial villains who, you know, kill underlings for fuck-ups. A
la Darth Vader.
Yes, which, you know, Thrawn also does, but, like, less. So he gets cookies for that. Or a sticker. Gold star. Gold star for Thrawn for killing people less, but also killing people a lot. So maybe less gold stars for Thrawn.
Like, is Lara Notzel in her villain era? Because I just think that's an incorrect way to define her character arc. This is giving Manosphere podcast.
Right now?
Yeah.
Fuck. How is Laura Notzel in her villain era? Like, what's she up to in this book?
Because she is like, fuck it, I'm not going to go stand trial. Because Mindonos just tried to shoot Tycho Selchu to shoot me. Then is like, fuck it, I'm going to go be an inside man. Yeah. Nobody's going to know I'm an inside man, but I want to do this for myself. And then she fucks off. And then she's like, hey man, I'm on Corellia. You know where Corellia is, right?
Aren't you from there?
I'll be here for a few weeks.
You can find me.
On Corellia.
In the Corellian system.
And then the other two Corellians, in the Corellian sector. On the Corellian way. And the other two God, take a shot every time I say Corellian. The other two Corellians in this scene are like, well, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that.
Yeah.
If you saw
Delete that.
No, you didn't. Delete it from everything. Get it out of the ship's computer. Put it on a fucking flash drive. Walk it to Mindonos in person. I don't want to hear anybody talk about it ever again. And this is where we could have really used our boy Galorno.
Comms officer extraordinaire.
Yeah, who would have just been like, oh, I wasn't supposed to hear that, heard.
That's my kind of guy.
Sorry, the reason I like Star Wars is because I'm such a fan of Glupshitos. What the fuck kind of name was Galorno? You know his Wikipedia page is like 3 sentences long.
Oh,
Yeah.
we can expand on that.
No, we can't, because you have to provide sources.
There's more.
About Galorno?
No, maybe not.
He is introduced and dies in this book. This is it.
Okay, yeah, whatever. But I feel like you could.
I wonder if there's Galorno fanfic.
If there isn't, there will be. As God is my witness, I will learn how to write fiction for my boy Galorno. Get over.
Is Galorno in his villain era?
Ooh, discuss.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We're all in our villain era. No, because I wasn't thinking about Lara in her villain era, because I feel like Laura's on her, she's in survival mode. That's what they call it.
Who is they?
I don't know. It's just I don't know. Is it an internet thing to call that survival mode?
Like, she's in survival mode, but then is Tonin in his villain era?
Yes, because he's learning that he likes leadership.
Middle management?
Yeah. You learn that you like middle management? Villain era. No. Because it can be like again, going back to it, it's just sort of like a funny nomenclature. Because I feel like it just gives a nod to like the people pleasers of the world who are like, fuck, if I tell someone no, I'm going to be the devil. If I delegate a task, I am evil and bad at my job, you know? But I feel like...
No.
Yeah, I know.
I simply do not know.
What?
I simply do not know. I have no idea what that's like.
Okay, well, that's nice. But
I'm sorry.
you know me, this is what I'm like.
So I give you unlicensed therapy.
Yeah, and isn't it fun for everyone?
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No one knows.
Do you do the things I tell you?
Yeah.
Really? How's it working out?
How's it working out?
Yeah.
I think good.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I say things in a group chat with a couple of my friends from undergrad, one of whom is a therapist. She'll be like, don't ever say that to anybody. Where I'm like, my unlicensed therapeutic opinion is that the best way to get off drugs is to promise yourself that you can do the drugs that you didn't do when you get a terminal illness.
Nice.
Because it gives you something to look forward to.
It's important to have that.
I was told to not tell people that.
As my father once said, life is just stumbling from one treat to the next. Failing that, you're just stumbling.
Yeah.
You asked, is Lara in her villain era? This is causing me mental anguish to discuss in this way. But
okay, you started it.
I know, I did, and I'm sorry.
And I had questions.
And I think your questions were valid.
Because I didn't know what a villain era was.
And
I still don't, really. Because it seems nonsensical.
But the thing that you understand as nonsensical is what it is.
Yeah, but like, fundamentally, on a like, philosophical level, I don't understand the villain era.
Okay.
I get what it means logically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
But why it exists, I am confused.
The internet.
You know what I say about the internet?
What do you say about the internet, Lou?
That we should have stopped at the ARPANET. It should have never became publicly available.
This is so funny. Villain era, when you're in an extra mischievous stage and doing crazy fun things, especially at parties, often occurs after a breakup or a glow-up. Used in a sentence. Roberta just made out with 3 people at that party. She's literally in her villain era.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. The problem with the fact that we initiated this conversation with our source being, but this is, again, my fault, the clevelandhealth.org, is that they were talking about it in like a mental health capacity. There's another genre of the villain era thing where it's just sort of like promoting fucking around and finding out, which is also
okay,
fun.
we already had a term for that, though.
What is that?
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
As they would say in therapy speak, a lack of risk-taking aversion. That's not
therapy speak.
Is that therapy
I don't
speak?
know.
Or is that me just quoting something my therapist said to me one time? Sorry to out myself. I have a problem with understanding the risks of actions that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are like have some level of like risk-taking, quote unquote, like aversion.
Mm-hmm.
I do not really.
Yeah.
Is that therapy speak? What does therapy speak mean? I know what it is, but I cannot define it.
I think it's sort of like porn. You know it when you see it.
Like, I could give you examples. I won't.
Of porn?
No. Of therapy speak, because it's just all things that have been said to us by a person who I'm not going to name.
I'm protecting my peace.
That's not therapy speak.
You're right.
I've never had a therapist like my therapists have always been like, I mean, like relatable, but like and explaining things in a way that I, as someone who does not have a medical degree or a degree in counseling, can understand.
Yeah.
Because it got to the point where I paid for the really fancy therapists.
Mm-hmm.
They would be like, hey, you know it's not healthy drinking at 8 a.m. And I'd be like, I'm aware. And they'd be like, okay, as long as you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to work on that
Mm-hmm.
someday. Like that kind of cadence.
Mm-hmm.
Not like protecting my peace. Or
No.
What's another
No therapist has ever said, protect your peace to me. But I feel like, God.
Like it feels
I feel like I just said protecting my feet. Protecting my
Protecting your
peace.
feet?
Protecting my feet. Protecting my feast. Protecting my fancy feast. No. Is protecting my peace is like a phrase that is therapy speak adjacent, but it's not therapy speak. I feel like therapy speak is, misusing the term trauma bond.
Okay.
Yeah. Like taking things that like come from maybe the field of therapy and then generally speaking, misapplying it to real situations.
So I'm looking up examples right now. Okay, let's go to the CPTSD subreddit. Also, Firefox.
Oh, using gaslighting the way people do.
Which is
Trauma dumping. Triggered.
Are you also on this Reddit post?
No, I'm just around. Are you on r/Tumblr? Therapy speak and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race.
No, I'm on people using quote unquote therapy speak, which was posted 3 years ago on the CPTSD subreddit.
Oh, fun.
In my experience, the more people use therapeutic language, the less healed they are. Everyone using mental health day, meaning ditch work for the day. Therapy speak Wikipedia. Narcissism. Depressed. Setting a boundary is an often misused term, creating family estrangement if the speaker's wishes are not fulfilled by others. But in psychotherapy, a boundary is a carefully considered choice meant to preserve relationships. Codependency. I knew that one. Curse of knowledge, also called the curse of expertise, is the cognitive bias that occurs when a person has specialized knowledge assumes that others share that same knowledge. Would you like to hear the aim of the research where this term was coined?
Of course.
Quote, conventional assumptions and such, and then in parentheses, economic analysis of asymmetric information in that better informed agents can accurately anticipate the judgment of less informed agents. Why did they have to word it the way that they did? I feel like if I was going to coin that term, I would on purpose write a paper that was like targeted at laymen. Participants did not know the outcome knowledge affected their responses, and if they did know, they could not ignore or defeat the effects of the bias. Study participants could not accurately reconstruct their previous, less knowledgeable states of mind, which directly relates to the curse of knowledge. Okay, this is how I felt when I learned about clavicular. I wish I could unknow it, but I can't. I would love to go back to the state where I did not know what that meant. Shout out to the AO3, the AO3 subreddit.
Beautiful.
Examples of therapy speak. Literally telling, not showing. Everyone's just using narcissist, which is fair. Like, narcissism is not as common as people would love to claim. And it is a personality disorder.
Yeah.
That you can get assistance with. Holding space. Okay.
That's a good one.
We need to get on this. It's fucking 4:15.
I know. I'm sorry. This is entirely
We
my
have
fault.
spent so much time talking about villain eras. So, okay, is Lara Nautil in her villain era?
No, it's a meaningless term. Next. But
What about Min Donos?
yes. Because I just really loved the scene where basically Mindonos, after he finds out that his fuck buddy, Lara Nautil,
Wannabe girlfriend.
maybe girlfriend, I don't know what their deal is, his paramour,
His not girlfriend.
his not girlfriend, Lara Nautil is actually Garapetithil. She's responsible for the death of his squadron, which ruined his fucking life.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so that's a crazy fucking thing to find out, especially since like he had sort of already had some pretty debilitating
Problems
or that had arisen previously in the squadron in relation to the trauma he has from watching 11
Everybody
people die.
that he was in charge of.
That is fucking difficult. Basically, when he finds this out, as Lou already mentioned, he turns his guns on Lara, who then is blocked by Tycho, and so then he tries to shoot down Tycho. Afterwards, Wedge Antilles is like, bitch, what the fuck? Tell me right the fuck now why I should not immediately strip you of everything.
You should be court-martialed.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? And Min was like, no, like, I can't. I was not in control of my thoughts. My rage and grief completely took over. I know that was wrong, and I'm sorry. And Wedge was like, okay, well, if I'm to believe you, you need to get fucking good. you need to get your shit together because you can't go on.
We can't have you.
We can't have you. You can't be in a fucking X-wing.
You can't have access to a gun.
Yeah,
So
you are a sniper. So
that's the reason I hired you. You're making it really hard for me to do my job.
Literally. Make my life easier by getting your shit together, please. So what Min does is he turns to Wes Jansen for emotional support, which I think is a crazy person to choose to talk to for emotional support. But it kind of works out.
Wes Jansen's been through a lot.
Yeah, he has.
He was at Hoth?
He was on Hoth. He had to...
Was he at Yavin?
Their conversation was great because he was just sort of like... I mean, it sort of fed into like the similar conversation that the initial conversation that Min had with Wedge, which was like Wedge didn't let him finish talking until he took one of his boots off and put his feet on the table. Because Wedge was like, if you look silly, then you won't be able to carefully rehearse whatever bullshit you're going to say to me. So then Min is able to properly express himself. And then when he talks to Wes, like in that same vein, Wes is like, what have you done for fun in the past, like ever? Or since like the destruction of Talon Squadron? You ever just jump on your bed? You ever like do a little prank?
You ever just hang out?
Go dancing? Like what do you just do something silly? It'll be great.
Have you tried being normal?
You will feel better when you stop giving a fuck about how you are perceived.
And it works.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about how it works because they want you to pay. Big therapy wants you to pay money.
It's true.
Which is fine. Sometimes you need to give big therapy money.
Yeah, this is also true.
But not all the time.
No.
Sometimes you just need to be like, I'm gonna go lay in the sun. Okay.
Anyway, that's done.
That's done. I know I said we should get through all of this at the same time.
Yeah, unfortunately, but you did not anticipate that I would derail things so thoroughly, so.
Well, it was a group effort.
All right. Oh my god, I should go in my villain era and stop trying to just blame myself for ruining the podcast.
I'm gonna eat a bullet and it's gonna be your fault.
That'll make me really sad. You're so sexy. This section will be wide-ranging.
Stressful.
And stressful.
And kill the vibe.
But we'll start with a brief discussion of the character of Etta Gast, who is a perpetrator of horrible crimes against sentience in her role as medical administrator for Bing Ring Biomedical. Seems like she got the job through nepotism because her uncle was in charge of the experiments when she was working there, and she continued working there even after he killed himself due to extreme guilt, I would say.
Which...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking...
Maybe you should.
Yeah. And not only did he kill himself, but he also killed all of his quote-unquote creations, except for Piggy, also known as Vortza Binring, a Gamorrean who was experimented on. And we meet Gast when she's called in to be questioned by Warlord Zinja, because Zinja finds out through whispers from the meetings with the Hawk Bats, which he doesn't know are the Wraiths, that they have a Ewok pilot. And knowing what is known generally about Ewoks, it's, you're unlikely to be pilots unless they've been horribly experimented on and tortured and modified. So that tips him off that there's been a leak at Binring Biomedical, and also the fact that Piggy is now a public member of Wraith Squadron. So he brings Gast in, and Gast sort of chillingly describes her own confidence in her competence in the work that she does in a way that is completely divorced from the actual horrors of what she is doing. And this called to mind conversations that you and I have had about the role of women healthcare workers in the Third Reich. Last summer, I think, Lou read Hitler's Furies, and I remember getting some texts about it, which was, God, this book makes me want to throw up, but it's really good.
It does make me want to throw up.
Yeah, I read some chunks of it this week, also made me want to fucking throw up, but the first line in the chapter on perpetrators is a quote, the first Nazi murderess was not the concentration camp guard, but the nurse. Of all the female professionals, she was the deadliest. Centrally planned mass killing operations began neither in the gas chambers at Auschwitz-Birkenau nor in the mass shooting sites of Ukraine. They began instead in the hospitals of the Reich. I
mean, you have things like the T4 program in Germany, which starts as early as 35? It is a pre-war phenomenon. for sure. And the goal is to either sterilize or execute people with disabilities. What are those disabilities, you may ask?
In 1933, the law for the prevention of hereditary disease offspring prescribed compulsory sterilization for people with conditions thought to be hereditary, such as schizophrenia, epilepsy, Huntington's chorea, and imbecility. So it is estimated that 360,000 people were sterilized under this law between 1933 and 1939. So sterilization started earlier in 1933, escalated to killing in 1939.
Okay. They were sterilizing toddlers, I guess is the point. Hitler's Furies is, and I know I've talked about this before, and we'll probably talk about it again. Hitler's Furies is really interesting because it's interview data. Or not interview data, it's interviews. Like, that's the methodology. Wendy Lauer is either interviewing the women themselves or their children if they are dead. I think every woman mentioned in the book has living children. She might be thinking, if a woman who was 23 at the start of World War II and worked for the Reich, in which you could only do if you were unmarried, how do they have surviving children? Well, I have some crazy news for you about what happened to these women after the war. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you point to, nurses, which is one of the big things where they would operate within Germany, and then as Germany begins occupying other countries, they go and they start doing things over there as well. Nurses are the ones who give you your shots. You don't get shots from a doctor. So if you're going to be killed, it is more likely that it is the nurse that will kill you than the doctor in this scenario. That doesn't mean that there weren't doctors who weren't doing absolutely horrific shit, because there were, which is my fun segue. This is the real trigger warning. If you do not want to hear about torture, good day to you, sir. I understand. And I'm sure most people have heard of Joseph Mengele and the medical experimentation, particularly the experimentation on women and the twin experiments that he did at Auschwitz II, Birkenau. He was just but one small sliver of a much larger project that was ran by Edward Worse, who was the chief medical officer at Auschwitz. And they did them in Ravensbrück, which was in Germany. Ravensbrück was specifically a women's camp. Dachau, which was also in Germany, and then Mauthausen, which was border, ?
Austria.
Austria-ish. Okay, so Germany, basically, at that point. I'm going to not talk about Mengele's because I think they are the most publicized of the experiments, but the shit going on at Dachau was crazy. And also, at multiple camps, they would infect people with hepatitis to see what happened. Hepatitis is not a fun disease to get, if you didn't know. It's giving Tuskegee experiments. And at Dachau, they would do things that they called freezing experiments, which is one of the three that I'm going to talk about in this regard. And I should point out that this man faked his own data. It's Sigmund Roscher, who was working at Dachau. They would keep prisoners in either freezing water or outside in freezing temperatures for up to 14 hours. And then they attempted to, and I quote, warm them back up by either throwing them into near boiling water or forcing other prisoners to attempt to warm them back up with their bodies. You can see how this is incredibly unethical and is actually just torture. And he also did high altitude tests in which they would depressurize a room to see how someone would react. And by how someone would react, just basically how high can someone who is not wearing protective equipment be in the air before they die. And then probably the worst of these three, which is a crazy thing to say, is the blood clotting experiments, because they had made, is basically just several different kinds of fruit pectin to assist with blood clots. And they would give it to prisoners and then either shoot them in vital areas or amputate their limbs without anesthesia. This is awful, and I would like to note that at least in the context of World War II, the people in control of these experiments are men. There are women who are assisting in these procedures, because nursing historically was a field dominated by women. In Germany, a lot of these guys were executed either in 44, early 45, or they were put on trial immediately after. There's also the case of Japan, who also did incredibly horrific medical experiments on incredibly large groups of people. I'm mostly going to talk about Unit 731, which was based in what is now Manchuria, but there were other groups that operated in other parts of China. I think there was one in Korea, and then there were a few in Japan themselves. This is also the reason that China and Korea have incredibly weird feelings about Japan. Not the only reason. Japan did very similar things, but also on kind of a wider scale in a lot of cases, whereas in Germany, a lot of the medical experimentation was limited to concentration and death camps, because they just kind of had like easy access to a prisoner population that they did not view as human, I guess is the best way to put that. But some of the stuff that Japan was doing at the time is significantly larger scale, and I think, probably mentioned this before, but probably the biggest one is their biological weapons testing, in which they would drop either anthrax or Yersinia pestis, or I think there's several kinds of, like there's a lot of, it was a lot. It was anthrax, plague, cholera, and glanders on large populations to study the effects of these diseases on a largely Chinese population. They also did a lot of amputations. This was also without anesthesia. They were also pulling from a quote-unquote prisoner population. They infected a bunch of people with syphilis and gonorrhea to see what would happen if they left it untreated. They subjected prisoners to prolonged starvation and dehydration. They also did low-pressure environment exposure, which I am sanitizing quite a bit. Just want to note that.
Mm-hmm.
And they would inject people with seawater, non-human blood. I think probably my introduction to this personally was the live burials, which is very similar to a scene in this book in which they basically trick the wraiths into going into a room, which is a crematorium. Unlike the Germans, however, almost all of these guys got off. They were granted immunity by the American government. The United States let them continue torturing people in American-occupied Japan. So then they were continuing to experiment on Japanese citizens. And they were also allowed to publish their findings because, unlike Germany, everybody was aware that this was happening because of just like structural differences in how the academy worked in Europe at that point and then how it worked in Japan. Also, something I found out from the Wikipedia page for this, and it's an article titled "The Promise and Perils of Unit 731 Data to Advance COVID-19 Research," is, I guess, in May 2021, and probably a little bit earlier, a lot of countries, most notably China, if you have been following, I guess, if I am making sense, the country that houses the populations that were experimented on asked Japan for the data about their pathogen program specifically because of it had been like over a decade since the last coronavirus outbreak. This one seemed to be spreading a lot quicker and was slightly less deadly than SARS or MERS, so it was not dying out. And as we all know, with the hindsight of living several years in the future, it did not die out and has been wreaking havoc on people's brains and bodies. But basically, Japan and the United States government, who are the only two governments that have access to this data, said no. They were like, no, we're not going to help you out. We're not going to give you this information. Is this because they thought it wouldn't be helpful? I mean, that could be possible. It might not be viable information. It might just be like, well, we infected all these people with the plague. They died because this disease has like a 95% mortality rate, which, yes, would not be helpful in the case of researching, novel pathogens. But this paper specifically goes over how this could help. So they have an entire section about how, this is not talked about as much as medical experimentation in the Holocaust. This could be because countries were less involved in the Pacific theater. I mean, there were a lot of countries that were, mostly the ones that lived there, and I'm sure they talk about it in China. In the same way that I'm sure they talk about comfort women in Korea now. Because it's like, this is something that happened to you, this imperial power came in and was like, we love torture. I forgot the vivisections, but I don't want to talk about that. I also want to point out they loved cutting people open.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not. So, I mean, there are a lot of moral and ethical concerns because, like, who are you giving this data to? Not everyone should have access to this data. The data itself should not exist. This was an atrocity. But the paper argues that some people should have access to this data so it can be analyzed and basically, put into a database. And they also do acknowledge that it might not be helpful. But even if it is not helpful, it would probably be good to sift through to see if there is anything that could help, at a time where, because of the density of cities in China, like, shutting down an entire city means millions like leave their homes in smaller cities. But yeah, I would say that Gast is, as a character, is a very, I guess, interesting, because I don't have a better word for it, like mix of these two medical torture programs, I guess, wherein it does not seem like they're gaining much valuable data. As Piggy says, I think in the last book, but it might be this one, that he can't pass this on to children. Like this, how they engineered him is specific to his case alone. So in that context, he was talking about how he doesn't see himself like having children or having a wife or anything of that nature. And, he feels truly alone. It's like, I mean, in the way that Imperial Japanese and Nazi Germany functioned, people really did not survive medical experimentation in the way that Piggy does, or in the way that these other animals do. Noir Ven does kind of pull the bait and switch, where it's like, well, we'll give you immunity if you give us this data, which is very similar to the way that the United States treated Japanese doctors. And then kind of is like, well, you asked for Imperial, so you're going to prison, because you don't need that many. What are you doing?
No, it is not a perfect one-to-one.
I mean, I hope it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because it's
horrendous.
Like, it is truly abhorrent. Like, not to sound like an undergraduate writing a paper about the Holocaust, but this is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of forever. But you can't, it's fucking torturing people on that scale.
Yeah. I think one important piece of connective tissue, which I think you mentioned, which you did highlight, which is like the level of, I mean, the word dehumanization doesn't really apply to the Star Wars context because they're not humans that have
desentient.
Like the sort of.
Imagine if we were saying dehumanization, but for sentience.
Yeah, the absolute. God, I wish I had pulled quotes from Gast before right now, because we get like sort of like a glimpse into her mindset. I think at certain points.
She doesn't feel bad.
She does not feel bad. Not at all.
The two men that are working in the lab on Iron Fist,
they don't give a shit.
They don't seem to give a single fuck.
Yeah, no. Lara insults them to their face. You are the most vile people ever. I have no sympathy for you, you absolute pieces of shit. And then one of them goes, but you don't even know me. Like, as if you don't know what your fucking job is. Because, like, we don't, like, get, like, a very clear description of what goes on in Bingring Biomedical. Wedge does ask Piggy to, like, write a report about his experiences, but we are not privy to this report.
They torture him while he does math equations, I know that much.
Yeah.
But also torture in and of itself looks very different in Star Wars than it does in real life.
But we definitely get a sense that obviously the shit that they're doing is incredibly fucked up, and it's sort of, like, underscored by the fact that, like, when Lara frees, like, the Ewoks and the Gamorreans, and I forget if there's any other kind of sentience that is released.
There's the draw.
Yeah.
Which also, do they start experimenting on Ewoks because of the story of Ketch? Do they ramp it up because of Ketch?
Maybe. But like,
does Kolat get arm and leg extensions because of a joke?
It's possible. Because like, they hear about Ketch and then
they're like, did any of the
yeah.
Ewoks get out.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe they started doing that because of a fucking joke that Wes pulled on Wedge.
Rip to my boy Kola. He's not dead.
He's not dead. And
he got
his fucking revenge, I think.
Yeah.
And so did the Gamorreans. Hell yeah. And I would not say that they're in their villain era. Kill those people. That's not the wrong thing to do.
That is the morally correct thing.
The morally correct thing to do is to kill the motherfuckers who tortured you.
If you ever witness anyone who partakes in medical torture, those people should die.
Yeah, and you would be in your villain era if you didn't kill those people.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other like sort of insight we get into like the sort of imperial mindset of the, I guess we'll call it human supremacy, is the sort of behind the scenes look we get into like Lara's sort of deprogramming of imperial ideology, which...
Well, and like Lara herself really fits into the kind of framework that Hitler's Furies sets up.
For sure.
She is part of the, I guess, what would become the New Republic's lost generation.
Yeah, and also like the work that she was doing. She was a data analyst. Lara's job is menial tasks, interpreting data that lead to people dying.
Yes. And
before meeting Mindonos, she did not think about the data transmission that she did that led to the death of Talon Squad. Like not even a little bit.
She probably used the paycheck to buy new shoes. No, and I think that Gast, I cannot remember the woman's name. It's the one who is like the main focus in the wives section.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Gast's personality is very similar to that woman's.
Okay. Annette Schuking, Ilse Struve. Annette Schuking?
I think it's Elsa. It's the one that has the SS husband that acquires the slaves from the concentration camp her husband works at. And then, like, uses slave labor to repaint their house.
With her husband from a balcony just started shooting the people working in her garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
There's also photos of all of them from, like, their SS dating profiles. At the beginning of that book, yeah, there's pictures. I think it's in one of the earlier chapters when they talk about SS dating profiles and like getting married in Nazi Germany as a member of the party because SS members had to have Aryan wives.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of turned into a mail order bride
Oh
situation.
my god.
Yeah, it fucking awful.
Yeah. No, and the thing that's really interesting that is discussed in this book, which isn't gone into great detail because we don't learn much about Etta Gast's personal life, but the ability for these women to kill children and then be tender with their kids.
Yes.
Because they didn't view the children that they were killing as
people.
Or
I think there's a couple cases where it's with women who are working with the T4 program. It was like seen as the quote unquote humane option because they had been so thoroughly like propagandized, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a time.
It is a time.
10 out of 10 book recommend. If you can like handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into detail about like the trajectories of these women after the war, where they end up, if they're still alive, you know, the difficulty in interviewing either them or their children. Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, because that's the other thing, too, is that, like, not only is, like, what Zinja's up to at Bingring Biomedical is, you know, these horrific medical experimentations, but they've also managed to do some kind of fucking brainwashing...
Manchurian agent.
Yeah. Type shit of... No, I didn't mean type shit as in the way that people say type shit. I mean, like, that kind of stuff. You know, how people are like, type shit?
No.
You've never heard that?
I mean, I've heard it in the context of, like, that kind of shit.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Sorry, we're once again going to get derailed by the denotations of internet slang.
On r/English, type shit meaning, hi, can someone explain to me the phrase of type shit? It means, I agree. Or, yeah, it's like, it's a Gen Z-ism. It was oh, no, well, as in many Gen Z-isms, it's taken from Black culture. Type shit is a song by American rapper Future, and so I think it sort of developed out of there.
Okay.
All I was trying to say is that I didn't mean it in that way. I just meant that kind of stuff.
Yes.
As I sort of alluded to in the plot overview, what Zinja is calculating is that if he sends non-human agents to do things to destabilize the New Republic human population is very quickly going to be like, oh,
we can be racist.
We can be racist now. We're gonna
love that for us.
We're gonna take Twi'leks out of command, and those Sulistan pilots were never that good at flying anyway.
Which is just incorrect.
False.
They are so good at it. It is such an innate thing to them.
There are so many examples of this playing out in our world. None of the examples I thought of while I was scraping together my outline were, you know, doctored in this way of we're gonna make some people do some violent things so that their particular oppressed group is going to be more oppressed. But people kind of do that just on their own. Because of my research, the first thought I had was the fact that after Greece invaded the Ottoman Empire, after World War I, the Orthodox population of Turkey was immediately viewed as suspect, which ultimately led to the population exchange of 1923, as governed by the Lausanne Treaty, which was one of the earliest treaties which governed the 20th century practice of creating mono-ethnic nation states. The idea we need to separate people from each other in order for there to be peace. That worked great.
Which has worked out, I would argue. This is a joke.
I'm
joking.
I know. It's a good thing to clarify. Yeah.
Nothing like a partition, says the British Empire circa 1946.
They love a partition.
They love a partition. They did it to everybody.
Yeah. This podcast is anti-partition. Heard it here first, folks. But yeah, other things that I thought of was conversations I had with my mom that really pissed me the fuck off, where she was like, oh yeah, but I read that the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk had like a trans girlfriend.
Okay, and?
Literally. Okay, but like people, there's so much absolute utter fucking bullshit about trans women being more likely to do mass shootings.
I mean, if true,
Mm-hmm.
have we considered being less mean?
To trans women and trans people broadly.
I don't think that's true, though.
I don't think it is either. There is, in fact, an entire Wikipedia page on... Hold on. God, my other Wikipedia pages that I have open are... Here we go. I have Action T4, Mauthausen concentration camp, hepatitis, type shit. And also Usenet. And then also the Wikipedia page for misinformation about violence by transgender people.
I will say one quick thing about hepatitis.
Mm-hmm.
Hepatitis is a problem in restaurants because it spreads by mucus particles. I'm like 99% sure. But when I was working in restaurants still, the state of Ohio paid for my Hep A vaccine. And I think they were doing it to everybody. Like they wanted everyone to have a Hep A vaccination, which is probably just the result of the opiate crisis. Vaccinations are good.
Vaccinations are
And
good.
people will take them if
Yeah.
they are free. Except for crazy people, which have you considered reading a book?
I did my own research, and the mercury, it's going to cause brain damage, so I'm going to make the radical choice to protect my peace and not get that.
Okay, but have you considered that flus can cause brain damage? Have you ever heard of this crazy thing called the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic?
Yeah, that sounds like it's something kind of made up in order to scare people into getting microchips into their body.
Did you know how your mom or your grandma, depending on how old you are, random Gen Z person, this has been my great-grandparents. You know how your mom didn't know any of her grandparents because they all died like 15 years before she was born?
Yeah, but that's like not my business.
What did they all get?
Um,
When they were, I don't
just-
know, maybe 16, 17 years old?
There weren't 16-year-olds in 1930. I mean, in 1918.
You heard it here first, folks. There were not 16-year-olds in 1918.
And there were...
And it definitely was not because they all died of the Spanish flu.
There were no trains either. And there was no mail service.
Do you know what the Industrial Revolution is?
Sounds like something to do with techno.
Have you ever heard of
Yeah.
this country called England?
Is that where the... Okay, wait. Is that where Harry Potter is?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Okay, so do you know what the 18th century is?
Okay, so it's not the 1800s.
No,
It's the 1700s?
it's the 1700s.
Okay, yeah, that always gets me confused.
So in the 1700s, there was a guy in the United Kingdom. You know what that is?
Is that different from England?
Yes.
Oh my
There are
God.
5 countries, if you include the Isle of Man.
Isle of Man. I want to go there.
They invented this thing. It's called the steam engine.
I thought if you got water in an engine, it would break it.
No, they heat up the water to the point where it like almost turns into plasma.
Oh.
They did that in like the 1740s. There were trains in There was an entire world war in 1918. How do you think people got to Europe to fight in a war?
I didn't say there weren't boats. I said there weren't trains. You're telling me they took a train over the Atlantic?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
No, but like,
Learning so
okay, so
much.
do you know who the bad guys were in World War One?
The Germans.
Anyone else?
It's always the Germans.
So there's Germany, and then there's this place. It was called the Ottoman Empire,
Never heard of it.
and I think other people, but my knowledge of World War One is kind of limited to like the home front. So it happens. I don't like wars. I find them boring to study. So, Gen Z person, how do you think one would get to their allies' neighboring country or the allies' country itself?
I thought they had horses.
I mean, I have some crazy news about steam engines and early trains, but
Did they use horses?
they used horses to pull trains at one point.
Oh my God.
It was very early. I don't think they did it for very long, but it was to...
Is that why they call it horsepower?
No,
In
they
an
call it
engine?
horsepower because you're measuring how many horses would equate that.
Oh. I'm exhausted by being this person. But-
Anything else?
Okay, yes. Basically, fuck Haya Raichik. She's
Okay.
gonna find me. And also the Heritage Foundation.
We are an anti-heritage foundation.
Yeah, we
podcast.
are.
If anyone assumed that we weren't, I have questions.
Yeah, I don't know what we did wrong, but
It's because I keep making Dick Cheney jokes, isn't it?
did
I
you?
did not personally plan 9/11, nor did I sit with my feet up on my desk as it happened.
Well, speaking of 9/11, that was another thing. Actions of 2 individuals, which was related to the.
It was not 2 individuals. It was 8 individuals and
individuals.
Osama bin Laden.
Yes, but not every fucking Muslim.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
It's one hyper-specific, like,
One hyper-
weirdo sect of Islam.
yeah, and then from that,
Which there are hyper-extremist weirdo sects of all religions.
it's true.
And they all do crazy shit. I wish you weren't tired of doing the Gen Z
Let me finish my point and then I can get back. I can be her
Okay.
again, okay?
So 9/11. Well, and Osama bin
I don't
Laden
need to say that
wanted his child to be a suicide bomber.
that's not a cool thing to want your kid to be.
It's not. I would equate it to torture.
Yeah. However, does that give bitches the right to be wildly Islamophobic? Fucking no.
Absolutely not.
No. Like,
But
that
maybe
is...
we should all feel a wee bit bad. And please cut this because I'm going to have to go home sometime.
Mm.
And I don't want my... God, I can't remember his name. His paintings. I think about them every day.
Mm-hmm. Omar.
Yeah.
Omar bin Laden.
Just because his dad wanted him to commit atrocities and, like, really fucked him up does not mean that you need to invade an entire country.
No.
Especially when it's not the country the guy lives in.
Yeah. That's called collective punishment, and it's bad.
It's also very illegal, at least in our universe.
Mm-hmm. New Republic, United States, not that fucking different.
I also feel like I should point out that, no, I won't, actually. Okay,
Alright.
Go back to the Gen Z.
Okay, what do you want?
Fuck. I had a specific question that I wanted you to... God damn it. Never mind.
Oh. Okay, it's really rude that you brought me back here and then you don't actually have anything to say to me.
I had a question, but then you kept talking about 9/11.
Well, that was me.
Well, the other you. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's it, unless you remember what you wanted to say.
Are you
to
going to
me.
do this bit for the entire end? You can do it. You can do it.
Do you want me to?
I don't care. Okay, it is outro time. And for some
Yeah?
reason, I develop a really shitty Russian accent.
Oh my god.
I cannot stop thinking about the 3 NKVD officers that, like, dropped out of a time machine at that show I went to on Saturday. Okay, so they, like, sat us, like, they did seating,
Mhm.
and the 3 guys in front of us, I shit you not, one of them looked like the brunette version of Andrei Vasilyev from Ponies.
Oh my god. Hot?
No, unfortunately.
Sad.
But they were all wearing, like, sport coats and turtlenecks at the function. And just a general, like, the joke at the beginning was like, are they Trotskyists? But I was like, they look like NKVD guys.
Maybe.
Circa, like, 1976.
That's when men knew how to dress.
And also how to torture people, I guess. That's
Okay,
another
well,
group that's
those-
really good at torturing people.
Yeah.
And this was coming hot off the heels of someone who shall remain unnamed that said Joseph Stalin did nothing wrong and then didn't know who Beria was. Listener, Beria was the head of the NKVD and was also like a prolific pedophile and serial rapist. He was executed,
Good.
like immediately after Stalin died. Okay, well now that I've told you about the NKVD guys at the function,
Crazy.
that'll do it
Yeah.
for Wraith Squadron.
Probably the most tonally diverse episode we've ever had.
Probably. Maybe.
At least not yet, up until this point. Who knows? I don't listen to
That
what
we
we
know
do.
of. I don't listen to them after I edit them.
No.
So.
And then I delete them from my memory. Just like the video of Lara Notzel, not Lara Notzel, deleted from Mon Ramonda's main computer
Yes.
because
Kearney slain.
Kearney slain.
Well, we will be taking a break from our favorite fighter pilots. And by favorite fighter pilot, I mean specifically Cornhorn. Next time, we are going to talk about my personal favorite, The Courtship of Princess Leia. And I know everyone says, King, The Courtship of Princess Leia is weird. Why is that your favorite book? Have you considered that I think it's funny? It's maybe funny if Han Solo gets a weird mind control gun.
I'm so, because I know nothing about this book except for it's the Mormon book.
It's the Mormon book,
Yeah.
and the women are evil.
I can't wait to learn more.
Well, thank you for listening. I am Lou. That is Lenny. Our music is by Thomas Seiwell. Our art is by Lenny Apesos.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. You could leave us a review.
Leave us
Yeah,
a
'cause
comment.
I said that last time. You could comment on Spotify. You could rate us. Still don't know how to access that.
Yeah. Do you have a podcast and know how to see what your rating is?
You should email.
Email us at interviewwiththebothan@gmail.com.
We have a Blue Sky that gets posted on every 2 weeks. Like
I'm
clockwork.
scared of the internet.
We have a Substack has one post from 2024, but we'll soon have several more because I have thoughts and feelings about things that are not Andor, and Lenny has thoughts and feelings about Andor.
Unfortunately, yes. And Rebels for some reason.
You could write about Rebels.
I can do anything I want.
You can do anything you want.
I'm in my villain era.
I'm going to be in my villain era. Once again, thank you for listening and putting up with our bullshit for however long this episode ends up being.
Only time will tell.
What are we gonna do without a union meeting to edit this video? This audio. Oh god. Okay. Cool. We're done. We need your thoughts. Is Skyline Chili mid?
Who's we?
We're gonna leave this in the recording.
Good.
We need to know.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay. I'll tell you.
When we're done. Okay.
I'm sure I'll like it.
Record again.
Okay.